We are at the midway point, week 5 of the college football season, as Columbia now focuses on strictly Ivy League play. It's the John Poppy Coaches Show, as always, joined by the head coach of the Columbia football team. Coach, appreciate the time as always. Let's start with the victory over Wagner last week, 24-6. You've now run for at least 200 rushing yards in 3 games this season. No surprise, all leading to victories. What does it say about the discipline of the offensive line and the 3 running backs that you've been utilizing to get that state of consistency on the ground?
Yeah, just preparation, right? And I think their chemistry coming into the season, as I've alluded to, the summer program, all those guys were here, all 5 of them. And even some of the tight ends were here, the running backs were here. So when you have that, and we're working certain things, providing scripts to our players, and they're working the run game versus certain looks throughout the course of a summer and then into preseason, and now you're seeing all those, the fruits of their labor come to fruition, and that's amazing in terms of a coach seeing that happen, and also our coaches doing a great job putting these guys in positions to be successful. So all those things together are what you're seeing on Saturday.
Speaking of the fruits of their labor, you look at the opening of the game. You scored touchdowns on 3 of your first 4 possessions. What jumped out to me was the consistency of the explosive plays. You had 5 plays, 4 of which were on the ground for at least 19 yards. How much is that the running back staying committed to the play versus also what the offensive line is doing to open up the initial block to get the home run?
Yeah, we're getting bodies on bodies for sure. And then once you hit the second or third level, the running back's got to make somebody miss. You can't block everybody, right? And so it's a combination of both those groups doing those things, and even the tight ends when they're in the core, blocking their guy, and then even the receivers, right? They contribute. When you have explosive runs, especially plays and runs that go over 20 yards, they're doing something on the perimeter very, very well to make sure the running back's not getting tackled at a certain point in the run. So everyone's doing their job, and that's why we've had the level of success with the explosive plays on the ground game specifically. And
that dirty work with the receivers doesn't always show up in the box score, so it's refreshing, and those guys certainly deserve credit. You referenced the tight ends, John. I want to highlight Braden Doherty. Second game this season, he scored a touchdown in extra effort play. It seems as if week in and week out, getting more and more comfortable, showing up in the box score, also on film. What do you attribute to why he's become a key playmaker in your offense?
I think it's just the trust factor Chase has, and he's such a big target, right? I mean, he's all of 6'6", he's 250 pounds. I mean, in the red zone, he's dangerous. And I think regardless of the field position, he's dangerous, but really in the red zone, right, where the field space gets smaller, the coverage gets tighter, you've got a 6'6" guy who can box people out, and you can put the ball on him. And he does a great job catching the ball with his hands, as we saw on the explosive play where he high-pointed it from the DB, and he does a great job using his body. So it's awesome that we have that kind of level of player in Braden, and it's great to see him execute to the level that he's playing at too.
If only I had a 6'6" frame. I can't relate to that, but it's certainly a nice luxury to have from your perspective on the roster.
No question.
In terms of the red zone. I want to flip the script to the defense, because you held Wagner to just 1 first down in their first 5 possessions, and they had 4 3-and-outs. So not only did the offense set the tone, John, you could argue there was complementary football from a defensive standpoint. How impressed were you that as you were building a lead, the defense also wasn't allowing the door to open for the Seahawks?
Extremely impressed. And Coach Stovall and the rest of the defensive staff did a great job all game, right, for all 60 minutes. I thought they started the game well and they finished the game well. And those were some talented skill players we were going against. The running backs, they had the BC, Boston College grad transfer, number 5, running the ball downhill, who was a 6'2", 240-pound back. And we stuffed him a couple times in short yardage situations. To see the kind of toughness and relentlessness our defense played with for 60 minutes was impressive. And then, their All-American receiver, he got behind us a couple times and more than we'd like as a defense, but overall, he didn't beat us. And then we took away a couple plays where the quarterback had to pull it down and scramble, and it created a fumble opportunity. Even though we didn't recover it, it created a potential turnover opportunity for our team.
Yeah, you limited the explosive plays. You had them on offense, you kept them in check on defense. Other than the 20-yard catch and the 40-yard catch, they really weren't able to muster much on the ground. All the scoring came in the first half, interestingly, all 30 points. So the second half was a battle of donuts across the board. I'm sure you're not necessarily complaining about that, but I'm curious from your perspective, John. It's easy to jump out in front of a lead. it's not necessarily easy to maintain the intensity to finish and close out a game. So what did you learn about your group? The fact that even though there wasn't any scoring, they still did not make sure that the game tilted in favor of Wagner in the second half.
All the credit to the defense on that, to be honest with you. I mean, again, they didn't let a point up in the second half. Anytime you shut out an opponent in a half of football, you've got a great opportunity to win a game. And the offense had moments, they had spurts, but the attention to detail for, let's say, one or two guys a play made the difference in all the world in terms of stopping ourselves. And so I think that was the big, talking point on Sunday after the game. It's, hey, like, they didn't stop us, we stopped ourselves, because we had guys not executing to level we've come to expect, our standard. And so there's a lot of back to basics for us as coaches in terms of making sure our guys understand their job assignments, especially if all of a sudden a look changes by a defense. And I thought Wagner did a nice job adjusting some of their defensive schemes in the second half, and that's what led to some shakiness on our part, and that's where we've got to be better as coaches in preparing our players for those little tweaks and adjustments as we hit Ivy League play here. And
teachable moments for the first game up to start the second half of Ivy League play, of course, against Penn, as the Lions topped Wagner 24-6. We'll step aside. When we come back, we talked about the tight ends, we talked about the running backs, the offensive line. Well, there's also the wide receivers. How about the name Eden Stagg, who leads the team in receptions and receiving yards? We'll learn about his pathway to being a prominent player in the scheme right after this.
Eden Stagg, junior wide receiver from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My football journey started when I was about 5 years old. Played a bunch of sports, basketball, baseball, all during summer camp. And football was kind of the one that stuck with me. Football is a big thing down south, and it's something that I was surrounded by my entire life, so it's something that I took after. And then coming to Columbia, I kind of always knew I wanted to go to school further away, see the world from a little bit of a different perspective. A place like New York City is obviously very different from Louisiana, so that's why I chose Columbia. One thing that I love about New York City is waking up every day, you have no idea what you're going to come across, and I really like that. There's always a new challenge or some type of adversity that comes at you, and you just have to figure out the best way to go around it. What happened was I was on the way back from one of our spring practices, just on the subway, listening to my music with my AirPods in as normal. I kind of noticed a guy he's just kind of stuck in the doorway getting onto the train. I believe it was at 168th Street, and I saw him getting on the train, but he wasn't all the way on, so I kind of started paying a little bit more attention. I saw that he had his legs stuck. Comes to find out it was actually a prosthetic leg, which might have contributed to the original problem, but yeah, he got stuck, and I just jumped into action. Nobody else was really there, so I figured why not. I don't think it was really a question of if I should help out or not. I kind of just saw something and knew that I had to be proactive in that situation, because I knew at the end of the day, if I was in that situation, I would want somebody to help me. And I feel like that goes to show a lot of people think New York City, people just go about their day not worried about what you have going on, but a lot of the time people are paying attention, and it does go to show that people in New York care a little bit more than you think. I am a Saints fan, although I was more of a Saints fan whenever Marquise Colson was still playing. I'd say my go-to place to go in New York is Suru Tantan. It's a Japanese restaurant. I actually love their sushi there, which, fun fact, I hated sushi until I moved to New York, so that's something new that I've kind of picked up. One random thing that I've always wanted to do since I've moved to New York is go apple picking at one of the many orchards that I've heard about. It's something that nobody really would think I would want to do, but I don't know, it's just one of those random things I'm interested in. I'm a huge gamer. It's what I do in a lot of my free time with the boys. It's kind of a way we bond outside of football. And aside from that, I really like going to the various parks and, just kind of soaking up the sun whenever I get the chance. Our biggest competition would have to be Jordan Kelly or Bryson Canty in Rocket League. It's always competitive between us three who always want to be the best. Top 3 video games of all time, I have to put Rocket League up there just because that's what me and the boys like to play. College football is in there, obviously, and then Minecraft, probably be top 3. Coming in, you're not really sure if you're going to have the shot to start or even play at all your freshman year, and I feel like that's a lot of people's cases whenever they come into the Ivy. It is very hard play as a freshman, much less start as a freshman. So that kind of necessarily wasn't in my mind. Like, obviously, I wanted to come in and compete for that starting spot, but I also was able to understand my role and that I needed to develop as a player. And so as of now, I have that confidence to know my skill set and to be confident in my position and my role and what I'm supposed to be doing in offense. So I feel like that is probably the most way I've developed, is within my confidence. Every single one of the receivers have been super influential for me. Our receiver core is super tight as a group. We're all brothers. I consider them all my actual brothers. Playing behind guys like JJ and Bryson have been great because they are great players and they have a lot of skill sets that are different from mine. So I could take from them what I'm lacking in my skill set and add it and develop it within myself. So I feel like that's been very special. My strengths as a receiver is my speed for sure. I like to pride myself as the fastest on the team. If anybody wants to fact check me, you know where I'm at. But yeah, I'd say that's my main skill set, and as well as also just overall football IQ, understanding zones, reading zones, and making running your routes based off of that is also. I wouldn't say that I've necessarily had to make any adjustments. I trust the people leading me. I trust Coach Smith at OC, and I trust in what he's doing, what he sees, and so I know that all I have to go out there and do my job. As well with Chase, I trust him to make the reads. I trust him to make the plays, get the ball to me whenever it needs to. And that's what it's been so far. Ever since Chase came in, I kind of noticed something in him that makes him a little bit different from everybody else, makes him stand out. But with Chase, he's really taken on that leadership role, which I feel has been very important. He's been a very vocal leader within the team, which is important and something that we haven't necessarily had in past years. But he's taken on that leadership role very well. And so whenever things go wrong, he's the guy to bring us back together as a group. He'll correct you whenever you need to be corrected and lift you up whenever you deserve it. So he's doing a tremendous job. What makes this team special, I would think, is the culture that us as a team and Coach Poppy has been building since we got here. The standard for us is winning. That's the bottom line. We want to win every single game, as well as Coach Saitsu. You know, he doesn't take losing well. He doesn't want to lose, which none of us do. And so the culture that we're building is that's the bottom line, is we want to win, and we're willing to do whatever it takes for that to happen. Along with that is there's no quit in us. We're a team that's built for the fight, built for adversity. And so I feel like that's a significant part of our team culture. Is there is no backing down. No matter who it is, no matter what situation we're in, we're down 30 at halftime. It doesn't matter. It's a next play mentality. We're going to come out there, execute to the best of our ability, and see where it takes us.
Lance Meadowbank here with you on GoColumbiaLions.com. It is week 5 of the college football season. It's the John Poppy Coaches Show. We focused on a recap of the Wagner game, got to know Eden Stagg. Coach, now let's turn to your upcoming opponent, another road game at Franklin Field against Penn. This is a team that has arguably one of the best offensive weapons in the Ivy League, I think you would admit, in Malachi Hosley. Lions kept him in check last season. What do you have to do again to make sure that he doesn't damage the game and become an overwhelming influence?
We have to suffocate their run game, right? We have to take away space in their inside zone and their counter schemes and their other gap schemes that they have. And we've got to do a great job of gang tackling them. Right, pursuit to the football, and they make it extremely challenging to do that with their style of offense, with their run-pass option schemes. But that's what we have to do. We have to get off blocks. We can't have guys satisfied with being blocked once the ball's gone. Like, this guy does a great job of second and third level effort, right? Plays where he's wrapped up and he somehow gets free and runs for 8. Even though he's in the backfield for -2, he somehow finds ways to create explosive plays. He's jumping over defenders trying to take out his legs. So you really have to do a great job from a fundamental perspective of wrapping this guy up and really making sure you initiate contact and hopefully, secure the tackle.
Well, he had 2 touchdowns. All of that was on full display in their last game against Bucknell. They're 2-2 on the season. Like you, they played 1 Ivy League game, a tough loss to Dartmouth. What else has jumped out to you as you've studied them over their first 4 contests in terms of their mixed results? But they are undefeated at home so far this season.
Yeah, they play confident. And that Dartmouth game could have gone either way, and the Delaware game definitely could have gone either way. So this is very much so and easily a 4-0 football team. And they're balanced on offense, right? They have some awesome wide receivers led by Richardson and led by BZ Owens as well. And then even the slot receiver, Julian Stokes, does a great job of making plays, whether as a punt returner or as a slot receiver. I mean, they just have depth on offense, and really we've got to do a great job in our assignments of staying disciplined. We got to do a great job of tackling and hopefully forcing them into some turnovers. And obviously the quarterback is extremely experienced as well. You know, he's a 4-year player for him, so he's got a lot of football. And then on the other side, you know, we've got to stay on the field. We can't give them a ball. We can't give this offense more scoring opportunities if we expect to win this game.
I'm glad you brought up the name Julian Stokes, because it's the special teams that also, I'm sure, has caught your attention, as you alluded to. Actually leads the Ivy League in kickoff returns this year. So, you know, that's another facet. I don't need to tell you that could change field positioning. How much is that a big focus in a game like this? You talked about what they could do on offense, their defensive intensity, but last thing you want to do is give them gifts in terms of the return game.
Yeah, and even their punter, right? He's Aussie style. He does a great job of putting it in where your returner's not and getting favorable bounces. I think he's probably close to a top 25 net punter in the country, and field position is going to be huge this week. And my hope is if we are kicking off, it's going to be through the end zone, right? With our kickoff moving up 5 yards, and that's where we just got to have a clean game of football and cannot yield an explosive or yield a true loss in field position, letting the ball bounce as a return man, especially in the punt game.
John, on the topic of clean football, when we spoke after the Georgetown game, clearly we were talking about the turnovers, and that was a differentiating factor. Last 2 weeks, I think you could argue your team has turned the corner in that department. What do you attribute to why they learned those valuable lessons from Georgetown, and how key is that going to be here moving forward as you get into Ivy League play again?
It definitely shows them, right? We lost the game because we gave the ball to the other team. We gave them multiple opportunities. We took scoring opportunities away from us, most importantly. And I think that's been a message throughout preseason, but also now even more importantly came to life. And it bit us in the butt, and now we've got to do a great job and continue to do a great job of building off these last 2 weeks of preserving field position. It's okay to punt, right? That's why Will Hughes gets paid, so to speak, you know, and makes his money as a member of this team. And so you don't have to force things. It's okay to punt. Now trust the defense, right? And it's taking calculated shots and making sure as play callers, knowing we have some inexperienced players, right, that we are calculated in those shots. And we're making sure that it's not double covered, it's single covered, and our guy can hopefully has a great chance to win, right? In the run game, it's making sure our ball carriers, right, if there's traffic, we're iron crossing it, we're putting 2 hands on the football, and we're protecting that thing with our life. And so that's what the guys have done a great job with these last 2 weeks.
Live to see another down, live to see another day. No complaints from that perspective. Interestingly, Penn has had Columbia's advantage in terms of the head-to-head matchup going back to 1996 at Franklin Field. It's a 12-game skid. I'm not saying that you're losing necessarily sleep over history, John, but how much do you bring that up to the team? How much are you aware of that in terms of the trouble that your team has had in recent and past history going there and solving the riddle?
I don't know if we're focused on that so much, that level of history, because everything's new for us, right? New staff, new people, new faces, and same thing for them. I don't think they can rely on their history, right? Because if they're looking back, how can you stay in the moment, right? So I think for us, it's really been week to week, focusing on what we can do, day to day, focusing on what we can do to impact this game, not what's happened outside of our control or outside of when we were even alive for some of these guys. You know?
I think that puts it in perspective and is a good place to wrap up the dialogue in terms of dating and aging everybody out there who may be watching. Indeed. Coach, it's always a pleasure. Best of luck this week. You awesome. Got it. Absolutely. It's Columbia visiting Penn, a 1 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. You can watch on ESPN+.